Okay, you guys, I don't know if I'm streaming or not, and if I'm not streaming, I'm gonna post it later. And man, have I put a lot of work into this, and I'm getting a little thing over here. It's so frustrating to try and get this. Okay, everybody, technical difficulties. And guess what? I'm going for it. I don't even know what's gonna happen. We worked so hard on putting this together, and we're gonna do our best. And if I don't get it, then I'm gonna stream it. But here is what's happening in the West Clinic world. I feel really bad about this because I've had so many people that come into the office that are thinking that they got a death sentence. And what does that mean? Because they think that there may be a cure out there and they can't get a hold of it, and it's called hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin and zinc sulfate. Now, there's a study out there, we're going to talk about it in just a minute, and I've had people come in and say, hey, can you help me, or can you have your medical team prescribe some hydroxychloroquine so that me and my family can live? And I just wanted to say, well, wait a minute. What makes you think that way? Have you had a chance to look at it? What do you know about that? And what's happening is this fear and worry and doubt all over again. And so what this post is to give people information so that they can make good clinical decisions. It's the same that everything happens in the office. And I want to be really clear as we start talking about this. I have some feelings about hydroxychloroquine. And it doesn't mean that I'm attacking the drug. I do want you to be informed. I want to know what your options are. But I also want to say this. I'm for whatever works. Whatever can help people, but I'm not sure that that's actually working. Now, that may not be a popular decision, but I'm going to show you some research and some data that shows that. And what I really want people to understand is there's options. If you can't get a hold of hydroxychloroquine, maybe that's not such a bad thing. And I've already had people direct message me and contact me and say, hey, you know, this medicine saved my sister's life. This medicine saved my friend's life. And my response is, that's fantastic. I am so glad that something helped them. And if we can band together and whatever works to help people, I'm all for it. But let's talk about some of the things that are out there. So the first thing here. Testing. There we go. We got it now. Man. Okay. I'm super embarrassed. You guys, there I was going on a rant and I wasn't having any sound. Now I can see that the sound up's there. Thank you, Shelby, for telling me that. Man, what a frustrating thing. Okay, I got to start over and talking about death sentences in the office. So what does that mean? So one of the saddest things in this situation is the fear and the worry and doubt and the truth that people are trying to figure out on this whole mechanism. And one of the biggest things that we've been facing with lately is people are thinking that if they can't get a hold of the cure for the coronavirus, that they're dead. And what is the cure talking about? So there's all this press and stuff about hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc sulfate. So people are saying, hey, can you prescribe it? Or can you have your medical team prescribe it? And the answer that I tell them is this: I'm not sure that this is the mechanism that you want to go, so tell me what you know about it. And invariably people are saying, oh, well, it's the cure. I'm like, where are you getting the education? Where are you getting the information? And then they say this: well, I read it in something or other. So let's go over and talk about this just for a second. I got to get switched over to the screen here. And I just wanted to show you some research that's out there. The first one is this. This just came out of NBC News. And this came out today. Okay, no miraculous recovery. Some ICU doctors say hydroxychloroquine isn't helping the sickest patients. Now, where did this information come from? Where did the idea start? Well, there was a doctor that said, I'm going to give people hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc sulfate. And then he said, I've had these cases in the office and they're getting better. And I want to be sure that everybody knows this. Like, I'm for all whatever works. Whatever is going to help people to get over this, I'm for it. What is discouraging or disappointing is people thinking that they're going to die or their inner circle is going to die if they don't get this medicine. That's what's frustrating. And then is there any considerations if there's this big run on the medicine? What can you do if you can't get a hold of it? Maybe you do get a prescription, you can't get a hold of it. And I had a patient come from a different area and saying, you know what, there is a doctor in a bigger city that's giving all of his patients and friends prescriptions. They're running down to the little pharmacy in our area and it's overwhelming our pharmacy. Our pharmacy is refusing to fill the hydroxychloroquine recommendation. Well, I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. We're going to talk about that, but in NBC News, there's some doctors that aren't seeing the outcomes that they anticipated. And why is that? We're going to talk about the medicine. We're going to talk about the drugs. And remember, this is just an update on helping people to understand fear, worry, and doubt. Get some data points. This maybe isn't that bad if you don't get that medicine. Now, the second thing that we should do here is just right here. Okay, this came out of the New York Times. This morning, April 9th, hydroxychloroquine was approved decades ago to treat malaria, and it's used to treat autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. But here it is, first statement. There's no proof that any drug can cure or prevent infection with the coronavirus. But in the face of expanding pandemics with frightening death tolls, people are desperate for a little bit of hope. And that hope can cut both ways because it's not a death sentence if you can't get it. If you're in the hospital, if you're going to get on a ventilator, I would totally want to try it and want someone else to try it. But as a prophylactic or preventative medicine, we need to go through and we need to look at the research. This drug's received a lot of attention, despite the warnings from his own health officials that there's little to data support this widespread use as treatment against the virus. Maybe it's some doctors are doing something to feel like they're doing something, but is there any data behind it? So that's the purpose of the live cast is I wanted to go and tell my patients and my friends, hey, wait just a second. We need to understand this drug a little bit, understand why they would want to couple it with an antibiotic, because one of the things that's happening on the CDC website, it says if you give an antibiotic for a viral condition, you can create some drug-resistant bacteria, which is a pretty bad problem. They're anticipating it killing 23 to 25,000 people a year. So are we taking one condition and putting it into another condition? So that being said, let's get over and let's talk about right here. Let's talk about this drug and why it's not a death sentence if you don't have it. So the trade name Plaquenil belongs to a group of medicine called quinolines. It's used to treat malaria. Now, before you take this medicine, we got to make sure that you don't have some things. Now, one of the problems that we have with the coronavirus is we know from the statistics that 80-90% of people are going to be asymptomatic or have a mild infection. At least that's what the data that I saw the last time I looked, getting ready for this preparation. The people that are at risk have a lot of comorbidities or associated conditions. So if you're taking, or if you want to take this medicine, you got to tell your doctor if you have any eye problems, heart disease, diabetes, stomach disorders, allergies, liver, kidney disease, alcoholism. So it's not something that we can just give. Matter of fact, when I was talking with our medical team, they were saying, you know, most doctors that prescribe this have to have a lot of experience. I don't have any experience prescribing this. I just have experience with people coming into the office over the last 20 years and saying, hey, I was taking this medicine and I wasn't feeling so great. So that's one of the things that my first response. One of the other responses is to look at, well, what does it do to your system? Well, the hypothesis, we don't know exactly why it works, but when it comes to the coronavirus, one of the things that they think is it makes it so that it's hard for the virus to get inside of the cell. But guess what? There's some other things, I'm going to go through the data that really helps with that. But let's go back and look at this. Hydroxychloroquine side effects: blister, peeling, loosening of the skin, blurred vision, dark urine, decreased urination, diarrhea, dizziness. Now, this doesn't happen with everybody. I totally understand that. I don't see those people. No one comes into my office and saying, hey, I was taking hydroxychloroquine, and guess what? I feel great. Maybe you should try and make me feel better. That's not what happens. What they say is, I don't feel very good. There's symptoms of overdose that you can have: dry mouth, increased appetite, numbness. It can cause some serious health problems. So that being said, let's just everybody calm down for a minute, especially the people that have been calling the office and saying, look, I need to get some of this or bad things are going to happen. And I'm not so sure that that's going to happen. And some of the data that's coming out, there's 2 studies that seem to be really favorable for hydroxychloroquine, and there's 2 studies that say it has no effect. I showed you NBC News earlier that says it's really not helping that many people. Excuse me, it's not helping the ICU. If I said it was not helping people, I misspoke. A little bit nervous doing the Facebook Live. Let me back up just a little bit and say there's mixed data associated with it. Now, the other thing that the doctor was doing in one of the studies was he was giving some azithromycin. Now, this is one of the things that I'm scratching my head over just a little bit, because a bacteria and a virus are a little bit different, so I thought I better get educated on what this is. Now, if we go to, let's see here, I'm at drugs.com and I'm just reviewing some bacteria here, some antibiotic therapy. It says antibiotics cannot kill viruses because viruses have a different structure and replicate in a different way. Antibiotics work by targeting the growth machinery of the bacteria, not the virus. Remember, the viruses are basically little groups of DNA or RNA surrounded by a lipid membrane, which is one of the most important reasons why they keep saying, wash your hands with soap for 20 seconds, because the soap emulsifies the viral fat layer, the grease layer around the viruses. And when you think about it structurally, it makes sense that antibiotics cannot work on a virus. Most illnesses caused by a virus, like sore throats, coughs, colds, acute sinusitis, bronchitis, respiratory syncytial virus, and influenza. And so the summary on this is, can I treat a cold, which the coronavirus has been around for a long time. It's what causes colds. Now, what happened is we had a virus that mutated against nature, COVID-19 started last year, and it's going around and it's causing bigger problems than a common cold, but there's a coronavirus that had been in us for a long time, not this particular strain, but right here, antibiotics. They will not cure a virus. It won't make you feel any better. It will not prevent others from catching your virus, and it will be a waste of your money. So those two things, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I just want to get some data points on an immunomodulator drug, which is the hydroxychloroquine, which I want you to think about this for a minute. If it is useful for treating lupus and rheumatoid arthritis by suppressing the immune system, and we have a virus that's going around that's attacking people that have weak immune systems, those are the people that have the highest risk. Do you want something that's going to decrease your immune system? That's just the question that I'm asking people. Now, the next thing is looking about, if you're taking erythromycin for this, guess what? We could be developing some antibiotic resistance. And this statement here, antibiotic resistance is an urgent threat to global health. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control considers it one of the top concerns. Antibiotic resistance, the ability to withstand the antimicrobial power of antibiotics. In other words, antibiotics that previously cured an infection does not work anymore, or if it works at all. The rate of the resistance of antibiotics continue to rise due to the overuse, and new antimicrobial agents are slow to be developed. Infections with drug-resistant bacteria may lead to longer and more costly hospital care and increase the risk of dying from infections. Dangerous resistant bacteria, known as superbugs, are being reported. Each year, 2 million people get antibiotic resistance, and close to 23,000 die. So I'm not sure that that's the good cocktail to take. Now, if you're in the hospital and I'm all for whatever is the last ditch effort, but as a preventative thing, or people saying, oh my gosh, I'm not getting this and I'm going to die, that's not supported by the data. So the other thing that's really interesting about this is the doctor saying, hey, you know what? We're also giving zinc sulfate. And so this is what I'm really excited to share with people, because I think that that's where all the benefit's coming from. Because if you look at zinc supplementation reduces the number of days of acute lower respiratory tract infection in Thai children, as well as their stay in the hospital. Zinc treatment significantly reduces duration of fever and very ill status in boys with severe lower respiratory infections. So if you can get on zinc somewhere between 15 and 30 milligrams a day, I would say, is that what's helping them? Because the antibiotics aren't going to help them, and an immune suppressive drug, it doesn't make logical sense to me. Now the zinc makes a lot of sense to me. Another one, zinc picolinate, may have favorable effects on antioxidant balance in people with congestive obstructive pulmonary disorders, which is where people are really getting hammered, is their lungs aren't working, then they fill up with fluid, then they put them on a ventilator, which, by the way, the ventilator, it's not exactly something that's really going to make it so that you kick this no matter what. Matter of fact, the data that I said is about 80% of the people that can put on a ventilator, they don't make it. So when we talk about all these ventilators, we got to go back to prevention. We got to get the immune system working. We got to get good water, good air, good sleep. We got to get things into our system that helps our immune system. There's another study we're going to reference that talks about studies in animals giving them essential fatty acids that protect against the red blood cell membranes against the coronavirus. Now, it wasn't COVID-19. It was actually, I want to say, a 2014 study. Another one, lower circulating zinc levels may be associated with increased risk of asthma. So I've had people saying, hey, you know what, Dr. West, I am worried because I have asthma. What should I do about it? Well, you should supplement with zinc. That's one of the things you do. There's no downside to it. It's going to help with that. Here's another one. Omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin C and zinc improve persistent bronchial asthma in children, either singly or in combination. So what does that mean? If you look at a red blood cell, it has a little phospholipid bilayer around it, and what's happening is we have a layer of fats protecting that cell. Supplementing with healthy omega fatty acids, 3, 6, 7s, and 9, protect the red blood cell so it's difficult for infections to get in. That kind of sounds like the hypothesis of hydroxychloroquine with almost zero side effects. Another study wanted to, and this is one of my favorite ones, I've been telling people all about it. Here it is. Zinc supplementation boosts the stress response in elderly. So what does that mean? It means that if you are a little bit more mature in life, if you're farther down the matriculating process than others, this is going to be something that is really beneficial for you. So here's what I'm trying to tell people. If you're joining us on our live cast, people are thinking that they have a death certificate if they can't get all of the stuff that's in the media about the hydroxychloroquine, erythromycin, and zinc sulfate. Now, I'm a big fan of the zinc sulfate. I don't know about the antibiotic because according to what I've read and shared with you, it states that antibiotics don't help with viruses. Matter of fact, it can cause different problems and problems down the road. It's a huge global priority for the CDC and the World Health Organization. I quoted it off the website. And the hydroxychloroquine, it's an anti-malarial drug. It's for parasites. Somehow they think that it prevents the virus from getting inside of the cells. But there's some concerns with it. And if you have existing healthcare conditions, you got to make sure that you're working with someone that prescribes it frequently and has a lot of experience with it. So I'm thinking that what you should do is, hey, if you can't get a hold of hydroxychloroquine, there's some other things that you can do. We just talked about the study on essential fatty acids, how it protects the cells. We talked about zinc, how it helps with asthma, and how it works with lower respiratory infections, which is down here, which is where the COVID-19 likes to go. And now let's talk about some of the other stuff that's in the data. I just got to get my screen to switch over here. Okay, now, we talked in here just a second ago about this. If you're just joining us late, there's no miraculous cure for the hydroxychloroquine. It's right here in the data. It came out this morning, NBC News. Some ICU doctors say hydroxychloroquine isn't helping the sickest patients. And patients in my office are saying, I'm so worried I can't get a hold of it. I can't get a supply for my dad. I can't get a supply for my mom or my kids. And my answer is, I'm not sure that you even need that supply. I'm not trying to be closed-minded on this. I just want to go through the data points. Here's the other statement that's so fascinating. New York Times, if you're just joining us here. And it says this, the drug has received attention, but there's no proof that the drug can prevent infection with the coronavirus. Now, specifically with COVID-19, we aren't sure that anything works. I mean, we're taking data points from different researches and different healthcare providers doing their best to help people. I'm all for whatever works, but putting someone on an immunosuppressant drug when we are in an infectious state, I'm not sure that that's the right pathway to do. And I really question whether you should get an antibiotic. The third part of the doctor that's having the success in New York putting people on zinc sulfate, I think that's awesome. That's what we should be doing here. Now, I wanted to share some additional studies on, well, what if you can't get it and what are you supposed to be doing? And so this goes back to the things I keep telling patients is good food. Eat healthy and alive food. We know that the more colorful food, you get phytonutrients, you get vitamins, you get minerals in it. I love sharing people this book. This is a little bit older edition of Curing the Incurable, Vitamin C, Infectious Disease and Toxins. 1,200 scientific references of something that's going to help upregulate your system. And then we jump in here into some different studies here. I'm excited to share with you. Some herbal medicine, S. crispa extracts are useful for prevention and treatments of human diseases. Now, does that specifically talk about COVID-19? Not at all. Does it say that it's helpful for your immune system? Absolutely. There's another one here that we talk about vitamin D levels in lower respiratory tract infections. There's another one about vitamin A levels and how it protects your mucous membrane. And so if you're just joining your podcast, I just want to tell you, if you can't get a hold of hydroxychloroquine or your doctor won't prescribe it or your pharmacy won't fill it, it's not a death sentence. Now, it may be very applicable inside a hospital system where someone's on a respirator or last-ditch efforts. I have no issues with that. I have no issues with people that are sick and nothing else has responded. I do have an issue if you don't have any symptoms or I just don't think that it's what you want to do if you don't have symptoms. Okay, here is another study that I really like to share with people. Evidence indicates that echinacea potently lowers the risk of recurrent respiratory infections and complications. It's coming out of 2015 study, Advanced Therapeutics. Another study that we took talking about, American ginseng is safe and well tolerated and potentially effective for preventing acute respiratory illness due to influenza and respiratory syncytial virus infections. I don't even know if I said that right. I'm getting tongue twisted here. Another study here that we're going to go over. Chinese medicine seems to enhance survival outcomes in severe acute respiratory syndrome patients. So what does that mean? We need to be working on building your immune system. Good food, good air, good water. I know it sounds like a broken record. It's so important to be hydrated. It's so important to have healthy zinc levels. 15 to 30 milligrams is what I'm recommending for myself and my family. Essential fatty acids, protective cell membranes. Vitamin A lubricates the mucous membranes. You don't have to go on an immunomodulator drug or an antibiotic for a virus. Now, one of the things that I have been giving people in the office for viral infections for a long time, for Epstein-Barr, for cytomegalovirus, human herpes simplex 1, human herpes 6 or 7, is elderberry. Elderberry appears to be safe and effective for the treatment of influenza A and B. Now, people are saying, well, wait a minute, what about the coronavirus? I don't know if it works on the coronavirus. I think it works on the coronavirus that causes common colds. It's been around for a long time. Does it work on COVID-19? I don't know. There's no studies on it, but I will tell you this. Biology is biology, and if it's something's helping a virus that has literally non-toxic side effects, isn't a consideration? And then I've heard some stuff about having a cytokine storm from elderberry and some other things, and we did that on a live cast, I think about 10 days ago. I haven't seen that clinically and by the way, I haven't seen it clinically because I don't have any COVID-19 patients. Well, I have patients that come in the office all the time with chronic infections, chronic viral infections, and these are some of the things that work. I see people come into my office saying, I don't feel very good when I'm on the medication that's touted as the core of COVID-19, and that's been over the last 20 years. And then the other thing is we shouldn't be taking an antibiotic for a viral infection. It doesn't make sense to do that. So elderberry appears for influenza. Another study that we're talking about, I love this one, high dose vitamin D. Now, what's neat about vitamin D is it affects about everything in the body. It helps your bones, it helps your immune system, it helps your emotions, it helps to prevent osteoporosis, and guess what? High dose vitamin D is suitable for the prevention of seasonal influenza as evidenced by rapid relief from symptoms and decreased viral loads. Again, biology is biology. You're not feeling very good, you got an acute episode of Epstein-Barr, or you have chronic Epstein-Barr, or you're getting chronic cold sores from human herpes simplex 1 or 6 or 7 or cytomegalovirus, you should know about vitamin D. And here's the dosages that I'm telling my family and what I've seen work clinically. 5,000 units is a really good dose to take as a preventative medicine. If you get sick, 10,000 units, and you can go up to 30, 40,000 units. I haven't seen any side effects in 20 years of using high-dose vitamin D therapy. And this is Pediatric Infectious Disease Journal, 2018. High-dose vitamin D levels help. Again, if you're just joining the podcast, what's happening is we have people that are coming in the office so worried that they're not going to be able to get what's touted in the media as the cure for the coronavirus, which is the hydroxychloroquine and the azithromycin and zinc sulfate. Now, I'm all for the zinc sulfate. I don't think it's a good idea to be taking an antibiotic if you're having a viral infection. And then we're just going through some of the things about Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine. It's a malarial drug for mechanisms unknown. They think it prevents the virus from getting inside of the cells. I also think that there are other things that are helping with the cell function that could be a consideration if you can't get hydroxychloroquine. Matter of fact, if you can't get it, maybe someone gave you a favor. I mean, there's some concerns about this drug. The other study that I'm going to share with you is, and this is, we talked about this, I'm going to bring you up a YouTube channel from Dr. Chang that was over in Wuhan that was giving IV vitamin C. Intravenous vitamin C has positive effects on the disease duration and reduces the viral antibodies in Epstein-Barr infection. And invariably, someone's going to text me or someone's going to call me and say, hey, did you know that the coronavirus is not Epstein-Barr? And I'm going to say, yep, I know that. And a virus is a virus, and there's DNA viruses, and there's RNA viruses, and they have a greasy layer around them, and that's why you should wash your hands, and that's why you should clean off your surfaces with Clorox or a 70% isopropyl solution. I get it. And the other things that you should do is to do natural things to help your immune system to get it high, not be taking something that is going to decrease your immune system. Another study that we're going to show, and we're just about out of studies, is, or at least studies that I put together. Rhodiola may exert a protective effect against viral replication following intense and prolonged exercise by inducing antiviral activity. Another one that's here. I love this. Zinc may have a therapeutic role in the treatment of human cytomegalovirus infection. The downside of zinc, like I went into Medscape, I went into PubMed, and tried to find what is the overdose levels for zinc. What is the side effects of getting too much zinc? And you would have to have prolonged exposures to approximately 50 milligrams of zinc every day, which is so difficult to get. I mean, if you're eating fruits and vegetables, which is your best source of vitamin and minerals, if your body's on a schedule and you're doing well, then you are not going to overdose on zinc. Here's the other thing. Okay, we are just about through. I just wanted to go do a recap. Here's the recap. We have fear, worry, and doubt in patients that are coming in saying, I already know, I had a patient just last week. I've got asthma. I'm in my early 60s. I know I'm going to die. Okay, I know that you have a comorbidity. That it really is sad when people are being inundated and overwhelmed with the media saying this is what's going to happen. And you look at the studies of what's happening. Matter of fact, I need to show this to everybody because this just came out in Global Research on the COVID-19. And so here's what it says. Dr. Fauci says, according to this, his peer-reviewed article versus his public statements, COVID-19 maybe turn out to be like a bad flu season. And I love this quote here, so I'm just going to read it to you. This is really important to share with you. And here's what it says. On the basis of case definition, requiring a diagnosis pneumonia, the current reported fatality rate is approximately 2%. Whoops, here we go. If one assumes that the virus is transmissible, it says, and this is not a quote, I'm paraphrasing here. Let me just get back to get my screen balanced here. If one assumes that the number of asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic cases is several times higher as the number of reported cases, then the case fatality rate may be considerably less than 1%. To my patient that has asthma that thinks you're going to die, I really don't think that that's happening. Matter of fact, your statistics say 99% you're going to survive. So those are really good odds. Let's do some things that will help you now. To the other patients that are calling the office saying, can you please have your medical team? Can they call me and prescribe hydroxychloroquine and the antibiotic? And the answer is, I don't tell my medical team what to do, but what they're telling me is they're saying, we're not sure that this is appropriate for people. The study that came out of NBC News saying that this is not exactly what they say it is, that the ICU doctors are giving it, and it's not helping the sickest of the sickest people. Now, is it worth trying if they think you're going to die? Of course it is. Of course it's worth trying. Is it worth getting on an immunosuppressive drug when you're mild having asymptomatic symptoms or not experiencing symptoms? And the answer is that, in my personal opinion, nope, that's not what you should do. You should be using an antibiotic to treat a viral infection? No, I don't think you should do that. Should you be using zinc sulfate, which is what they're talking about in part of the other study? And the answer is, man, that stuff is great. You should totally be using that. Now, am I a little bit biased toward natural things? Of course I am. And I make no illusions or bones about it, but I also want people to know when they come into the office or they're calling me or they're reaching out through social media that they're in a panic, and you shouldn't be in a panic. You should get some data points and just recognize that there's a lot of people that are getting better. I put a Newsweek study up that said that there's going to be 300,000 people that are going to get better, or they're already recovered from COVID-19. And if it's as transmissible as it said, there's way more than that have recovered. Now, some other things that are going to be really good in this article is the overall clinical consequences of COVID-19 may, which is a big word, ultimately be more akin to those of the severe seasonal influenza, which has a case fatality rate of approximately 0.1%, or a pandemic influenza similar to 1957, 1968, rather than the disease similar to SARS or MERS. So what does that mean? It means please don't worry if you are not able to get a hold of these drugs. It's really not appropriate for you to have them if you're asymptomatic. There's a lot of side effects from them. There's a lot of things if you have those conditions that the pharmacist and the doctor are going to be wondering, okay, is it appropriate for that person to get it? Should you be getting an antibiotic? I don't think so. I don't think that that's appropriate to give an antibiotic for a viral infection. So in summary of this, with all of the fear and worry and doubt, it's so hard on your stress systems. It's burning out your adrenal glands. Cortisol in your system is decreasing your immune response. So let's get some data points for people to recognize that cure of a coronavirus, and I say cure like that, it may be appropriate for a specific condition inside of a hospital system in a life or death situation, and is it worth trying? Great. And I'll say this too, I'm for whatever works. Now, in the studies, the literature I was able to find, 2 studies were excited about it, 2 studies say it had no effect, so that makes me go back to, okay, what can you do to be healthy? And what you can do to be healthy is reduce your inflammatory foods. You got to reduce your sugar intake. You got to eat healthy and alive foods. You got to get adequate rest. This opportunity provided to the public to get their immune system dialed in, take advantage of that. Get out and do some movement, and then you got to look to your immune system. Things like echinacea and rhodiola are good considerations. There's 1,200 studies in my friend's book here, Dr. Levy's book, 1,200 scientific references. I've seen vitamin C work. Look at Dr. Chang's YouTube channel of taking people that were deathly ill, giving them 30,000 milligrams of IV vitamin C, and also putting people on 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C orally. There's no toxic side effects of vitamin C, except if you get too much all at once, it's going to make your bowels a little bit loose. So I just want everybody to be aware, especially my patient base, there's some considerations, and there are some things that you should not worry about if you can't get the cure. I just don't know if that's appropriate for mild asymptomatic people, which is going to be the vast percentages of people. So there's my little topic on what has happened in the office today. So many people asking about it. If you've just joined us on Facebook Live, we're talking about different alternatives to hydroxychloroquine and zithromycin. Zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D3 helps lower respiratory tract infections. I'm recommending for myself and my family 5,000 to 10,000 units. If you feel symptoms, crank that up and get it higher. Vitamin A, approximately 10,000 units is what I've seen really good clinical outcomes with. And if you've been following us on Facebook, you've seen the story of Becky and her daughter. And Becky's called me and said, hey, my daughter is so sick. I know she has coronavirus. And I said, look, we live in southeastern Idaho. I really don't think that that's what she has. And she said, what should I do about it? And I said, you need to put her on a program of vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc, D3, a little bit of copper, some selenium. There's so many things that it's worth taking. If you have those in your cupboard, please be taking care of those right now, because what it does is it helps with all of these different things. As evidenced by the literature here, I've gone through and I've spent half a day putting some studies together. There's hundreds and hundreds of studies about what vitamin C can help you to do. I have no vested interest in a vitamin C company. I just love it because it affects literally every process that is every body process. One of the studies I'm so excited to share with everybody, this is a free study in the expert review of anti-infective therapy. This is volume 18 in 2020, issue 2, the antiviral properties of vitamin C. It's an awesome article. I'm going to contact the authors and ask them if I can post it here. And it just says the growing interest in the administration of vitamin C beyond the treatment of hypovolemia in malnourished patients. Do you know how many people are malnourished? It's a significant amount because people want to eat fast, cheap, and easy foods. And guess what? You are what you eat. So if you're eating that stuff, maybe you're fast and cheap and easy. And so what we need to do is to go back to the basics. And so this is a wonderful article, the antiviral properties of vitamin C, the rationale of vitamin C in viral infections. It's really this simple. It is so helpful for people that come in that have influenza, they have hepatitis A, they have West Nile virus. And it's, by the way, it's not just me saying it. I got a whole bunch of video testimonials on our blog at Daily Dose Vitamin H that you can check out of people that were coming in, that were out of hope and out of time and out of options, and they get better. And so it's not just me thinking that. I've seen it happen over the last 20 years. So to summarize this, it's really important to get data points so that we don't stress ourselves out, so that what happens is our immune system works better. And so that's the purpose of the live. If you have supplements in your house that you need help with, that's something where our office is really excited to do for you. If you need vitamin supplementation or herbal recommendations, I'm happy to provide that for you as well, because we want to get our country healthy. And the way you do it is one person at a time. And that's what's so concerning about this, is people are thinking, hey, there's a magic bullet out there. There isn't. The magic bullet starts right here. It starts with getting enough sleep, getting enough water, getting healthy and alive foods, colorful foods into your system. And so that is basically our live cast for today. If you can't get hydroxychloroquine, maybe someone's doing you a favor. It's not a benign medicine. It may be worth trying in a life or you should try it in a life or death situation. If you're using it as a preventative medicine, I'm not sure that you want to do that, and I encourage you to get data points on it. Again, all I care is that people get better, so if people are getting better with it, fantastic. 2 studies saying people are, 2 studies are saying people aren't. Now there's a run on it, people can't get a hold of it. Guess what? You should use essential fatty acids. You should use monolaurin that helps to protect the cells so that the virus can't get in. And I haven't even started talking about some of the oxidative medicine therapies available, the ultraviolet therapy, the rectal insufflation therapy, the ear insufflation therapy that my friend Dr. Rowan has been espousing. And a shout out to him for the courage of saying, hey, I think that this virus can't handle oxidation. And so if we get extra oxygen in the body and around it by the different mechanisms of oxygen delivery, guess what? You're going to reduce the risk factors and you're going to increase your own immune system. And then, of course, my friend Dr. Levy wrote the book, Curing the Incurable. I just seen some really good outcomes over 20 years. So go back to the basics. This is Dr. West. You can see us at West Clinic online. If you'd like some more information, you can see our patient testimonials on a daily dose vitamin H. I've also written a book called Hidden Secrets to Curing Your Chronic Disease, and another book called Hidden Secrets to Daily Living, of trying to help to educate people on their options so that they can get healthier. So I'll see you guys on the next Facebook Live.